the next 4 songs actually that I'm gonna be releasing will come together to be an EP, and they're all kind of in that new dance realm, which I'm super excited about.
Hi, Ava.
Hi,
How are
how are
you?
you? I'm good, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I appreciate you doing this.
No, of course, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new song "Ego."
Amazing.
Sweet. So, I always start off with born and raised. Are you originally from? I did read Long Island.
Yes.
So, born and raised in Long Island.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
Um,
Are you by the Hamptons? Like, like what part of Long
yeah, yeah,
Island?
exactly. So I'm in Setauket. I'm in the Setauket area, and yeah, it's super great because it's like an open area, so a lot of like roaming around. It was especially nice during COVID when everything was shut down. Um, yeah.
Okay. Very, very cool. And what about music? How did you get into music? Do you come from a musical household at all, artistic household?
Kind of. My mom was very musical when she was younger, so,
Okay.
like, she played violin and piano and guitar, she sang a bunch. So, she doesn't do that as much anymore, but I think that's kind of where my interest came from. And I've always just kind of loved singing and performing, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did see you play violin, correct? And ukulele and piano and like a lot of the instruments mom plays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I guess my addition to my mom's past in music was, I guess, songwriting.
Oh, okay. So she was just a instrumentalist who wasn't writing any songs at all.
No, not really. She was in a band for a period of time. But again, I think that's just kind of where the inspiration came from. But I've just always kind of liked to express myself, and I guess that's where songwriting came from.
Okay. And at what age did you start or did you have an interest in like playing an instrument or singing? Or was that something you've always done?
Um, I guess it's kind of something I've always done. I've been singing basically since I could talk when I was like 3 or 4. And then I guess the songwriting came after I got out of School of Rock on Broadway, just kind of as a transition to something else creative, just not necessarily like performing. But there's like evidence of me songwriting from like second grade. My mom used to take videos of me like just coming up with a song on the spot and improvising. So
Okay.
I've always kind of been doing it, but I guess I really started it when I was 12 or so.
Okay. And with School to Rock, were you, singing? Like, what was your role in it? I know you play a bunch of instruments. Was that something that you did on stage or and I'm curious how you even got into that.
Yeah, so I guess School of Rock, I was a swing for multiple roles, which means an understudy for multiple roles. So I understudied 6 different roles, and one of them was Katie, the bass player, and I
Oh,
actually had
wow.
to learn bass for my audition. I didn't, like, know who I was auditioning for at the time because they were still trying to figure out exactly who they had to cast, I guess. Um, so when I auditioned, they were like, they asked my mom, "Does your daughter like know how to play the bass?" And my mom was like, "She can learn," because we were just
Of
both so
course she
excited.
can.
So I learned how to play the bass in like 3 or 4 days, which was kind of crazy.
Wow.
Um,
Did you already play guitar at that point?
no, I didn't.
Oh my
I
gosh.
played violin, which is like the strings are backwards from the bass. So I guess you kind of have that, but yeah, it
So
was a
you, like, knew
challenge.
how to push down the strings, but other than that, it was like it wasn't like you went from guitar to being like, "Okay, well, at least I'll just play, like, the root note and be
Right, no,
good."
exactly.
You had to, like, fully learn a whole new instrument.
Yeah, and when I actually went to the audition, my fingers were like so calloused and stuff because I had just been playing like nonstop the past few days.
That's funny. So
Yeah.
before when you went into that, you could already play violin. So at what age do you start playing violin?
I guess when I was around 4, I think I started playing
Oh
violin,
my
and
gosh.
then also same thing with piano. And then I learned bass when I was 10 for my audition, and then guitar and ukulele I kind of picked up while I was in School of Rock because I was inspired by everyone else kind
Uh-huh.
of playing those instruments.
Sure. So was piano the first one or violin, or did you start them kind of at the same time?
I think they were about the same time. They kind of went hands in hand. Everybody in my family plays violin and piano.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's why you or did your parents go, okay, We see that Ava's musical or into music. Let's give her these a couple, instruments to start off. It wasn't probably
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to play piano or I want to play violin, or was it? Did you see your parents or your mom playing it, or other people in your family playing it?
I honestly don't know. I think it was just kind of the quote unquote basics or so for music.
Right.
Like I know a lot of kids play violin and piano, and my parents noticed I loved music, so they kind of figured, how about she tries this out? And I ended up loving it. So yeah.
Wow. So at 4 or 5, and then how did you, obviously, I'm sure you can still play it to this day, but was that something you continued doing? Like, were you in the orchestra at school, or did you do all of that as well?
Yes, I did orchestra in school a little bit. I did jazz band at a certain point,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, chorus.
Yeah. And so at 10, you said 10, 11, you auditioned for the School of Rock. Prior to
Yes.
that, you must have had experience in theater or acting or, some sort of musical theater, or like, where did that kind of start?
Right. So when I was 6 or so, I had my first audition for like a professional production, which was actually Matilda. At the
Oh,
time, it was
wow.
an open call, which was super intimidating to start out with because there are like hundreds of kids just in one room, all going up for the same, I guess, the same show. So yeah, I started out auditioning for Matilda. That was my first audition. And my second audition was like some Nickelodeon thing that I was way too young for. And then my third audition was for Les Miserables, which is the 25th national tour, a Broadway national tour of Les Mis. And I auditioned for that when I was 7, and then I booked it, and that's kind of where it all started.
Wow. Okay, so the first few that you did auditions for, you didn't end up getting those.
No, I think at that point I was probably way too young to be like trusted on a Broadway stage. At least that's how I view it. Because I was only
Yeah.
6. I was barely getting into it at that point. But I was very fortunate. I mean, it didn't. I was very fortunate to book Les Mis so early.
Yeah, I was gonna
I really
say,
loved
people
it.
go their whole lives trying to get on Broadway, and now you did Les Mis on Broadway?
It was a Broadway national tour, so I went to 27 cities in 9 months.
Oh my gosh, at
Yeah.
that early of an age. So at that point, are you you're basically touring, sounds like. Like,
Um,
you're touring with
oh,
this
touring,
Broadway
yes.
production, yeah, so are you, like, in the bus, and your mom or dad or both are with you at this point, and you're just kinda cruising around the country?
Yeah, while Les Mis was having its own tour, my family was having its own little tour as well. So my mom would fly out because my brother was still in school. So my mom would fly out to me and then go back. And then my dad came sometimes, and my grandparents came at some point, my aunts and my uncles, whatever. So it was a whole
Wow.
tour trying to get me from place to place because we moved like every week, once in a while, every 2 weeks. But it was definitely a lot of traveling.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially being that young. I mean, where's
Yeah.
that I mean, if your parents weren't there the whole time, did you have to have, were there other kids? Like, what was that experience like?
Yes, there were, if I'm remembering correctly, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 other kids. And they were all, most of them were a little bit older than me. One of them was a year younger than me. So we were all kind of a family and touring around
Yeah.
together. Um, yeah, actually, one of them was Gaten Matarazzo, who's now in Stranger Things. So I
No
toured with him back
way.
when we were both like 7, and I don't know how old he was, like 9 or 10.
That's wild. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So then
it's
you
kind of
end up,
crazy.
yeah, 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 and then you end up booking, School of Rock a couple of years after that?
Yes, 3 years later.
Okay, and then once you get that, that's just on Broadway, or was that a tour as well?
That was also on Broadway, but before School of Rock, I was in the Broadway national tour of White Christmas, which was
Oh,
a big
wow.
departure from Les Mis, way happier. It was like a Christmas show, and it was only for 2 months because it's a Christmas
Yeah,
show.
Christmas time.
Yeah, and we went to 9 cities, so that was also a national tour.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
And then are you going to, are you doing, homeschool, packet sch how are you doing school at this point?
Yes, so um, for Les Mis and White Christmas and School of Rock, I guess technically, but there were guardians who also acted as tutors for the
Mm.
show. So I was tutored by this lady who was, I guess, teaching all the other kids. In School of Rock, I didn't do that just because there were 17 kids, all different ages, and it just wasn't as practical.
Sure.
So I coordinated more with my teachers from home. My mom got me a tutor, just because it's tricky when people are like drumming on the table or like singing
Oh, I
melodies in the middle
bet.
of school. Yeah.
So were you like going into the city every day for practice, or like how did that work once you got the gig? It's like, okay, that first of all, that was probably a huge moment. Like, oh, you just spent like a few days, right, learning bass, and then they like, okay, yeah, we're gonna take you. And and then so are you like in elementary school at this point or going into middle school?
Yes, I was in, I believe, 5th grade. Um, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so
So
you're doing school and then you're going into the city every day to practice?
I actually was living in the city, and then
Oh, okay.
I was coordinating with my teachers over email, and they were, like, sending me the work that they were doing just so I stayed pretty much up to date, which is
Mhm.
kind of nice because I didn't do all, like, the quote, unquote, like, "busy work." They were like,
Yeah.
"Okay, here's what you actually need to do." So that was kind of
Right.
nice.
It's like when you do
Um
homeschool, my older son does homeschool, and it's like he doesn't have to do all the just like the 8 you go to school and half of it's just whatever filler work. So he just
Right, right,
takes home
exactly.
what needs to be done and he can finish in like 2 days. And it's like, okay, that this
Yeah, yeah.
I see how like the homeschool kids just like are finish so fast because they don't give you all the other garbage to do.
Right.
Um, so how long were you on Broadway for with School of Rock?
Almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so we
Okay,
were
so you're
living in
going
the
through
city.
middle school and you're doing this show.
Yes, my middle school, my school district is weird in the sense that middle school doesn't start till 7th grade. So I was actually still in elementary school, which is really nice. And that's
Oh,
one of the
okay.
reasons I kind of stopped performing on Broadway because I realized it's kind of tricky once you get to the higher education to really balance that.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of stopped in elementary school, and that's when I transitioned to songwriting because I realized I loved that so much. But it was also a way I could kind of stay at home and work from there.
Yeah, and you've written so many songs, and you started writing songs, like, around that same time as well, like 10, 11.
Yes, I recorded my first song, which was definitely not released. It was super early on. But I recorded my first song when I was 10, when I was in the city, because I had access to these recording studios. And I recorded at Avatar Studios, which recently I guess, got taken over from a different studio. I don't know what the new name is.
Mhm.
But I thought it was cool. It had the word Ava in it. So that's kind
There
of
you
where I
go.
started. Yeah.
And with that, like, with your songwriting, I mean, obviously, you're very talented at it, but at that point, like, were people like, "Oh, you should," like and I know you've won a bunch of songwriting competitions and stuff. Like, was that something that people were telling you pretty early on, like, "Oh, you're really good at this. There's this competition you should submit to," or, like, how did you kind of go down that
Oh,
realm?
sorry.
Oh, no worries.
The competition came more from, I guess, just me kind of going for it and like seeing an opportunity. I think a few times it was through school being like, oh, there's this songwriting competition if you want to apply to that. But it was more so just like my mom and I being like searching up a few competitions and being like, why not? Let's see.
Right, and then you win, right? I mean, that had to be fairly validating. Like, you win these competitions and it's like, "Okay, I'm doing what I should be doing." And do you just keep moving forward with that as you continue with these contests? And at what point do you release another song or record another song? Were you doing that consistently as well?
So after my first song that I recorded when I was 10, I kind of waited for a while until I was out of School of Rock. And then starting from the age of 12, I was pretty regularly recording music and just kind of learning from the experiences, seeing how to collaborate with other people for production.
Mhm.
I even did like one co-write at some point. Um, and then I guess it really kind of my songwriting career kind of skyrocketed during COVID because I had a lot of free time and I was writing just so many more songs than I was before.
Mhm.
So I released like my first song in 2019, like December 2019, and then I took a little break and then I released my next song at the beginning of COVID in 2020. And then from there, I started releasing pretty regularly.
Okay. So you put out a song in 2019 December, and then
Yeah, it's a
COVID's like
Christmas
4
song.
months later. Yeah, so a few months later, then COVID happens. Did you put the song out after, like, everything started to lock down, or was it like, "Okay, here's my next song," and then the world shuts down?
No, it was actually after everything shut down, and the song was called "Optimist," and it was kind of fitting for the time because I was talking about trying to stay optimistic during a dark time.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how we promoted it, and that was kind of like the new meaning to the song, which I really liked.
Yeah, 'cause, from what I was reading before, what you said about the song is it was about a friendship, right? Or something with a friend that was kinda down?
Oh, that might have been a different one, but
Oh.
that was yeah, that was one that I released. Oh wait, I'm not sure. I've released a few about friends.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
one of my latest releases was about a friendship kind of not going so well. Is maybe that's what you're referring
No,
to?
I thought it was I thought I read something about, maybe I'm getting confused, but, yeah, I thought it was about, well, then tell me what Optimus was about. It
Yeah.
wasn't about the pandemic. Maybe I am getting confused. I thought I read something about that as well, but guess not.
Yeah, probably not about Optimus, but there were definitely a few songs about friendships, which I released later on. But Optimus was, yeah, about staying positive during a negative time
Mhm.
and just like always looking on the bright side of things. It's just
Okay.
like a lot, all the lyrics are basically like, be happy, I guess, and like stay optimistic. It's not as story driven as some of my later stuff.
Okay. And that one even got, like, radio play and everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. That got a lot of positive reviews and feedback, which was very encouraging because it was one of my earlier releases. Um,
Yeah. So
and
then
people
it's
really
like
seem to like it. I mean, everybody wants to like stay happy, and everybody likes a bop that they can dance to. So that's probably one of the
right.
reasons.
And once you like, what was it like hearing that on the radio? Did you ever have a chance to get to hear it?
It was kind of crazy. I wasn't. I haven't had the experience yet where I just like turn on the radio and immediately hear my song,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'll be like, "Oh, my song is going to be playing on the radio at this time," so I'll tune in, and it's kind of yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, and then you hear, like 'cause I came from radio, I did radio for a long, long time, and it's like, uh, I feel like those moments are few and far between now, or like, it's cool to hear somebody be like, "Yeah, like, okay, they're gonna play it because it's just such a different feeling, I feel like, than like, "Yeah, my song has X hundreds of thousands of streams," versus like, "Oh, and then I just turned the radio on and, like, there's the song," like,
Exactly. Yeah.
um wow, so during COVID is when you started really writing?
Definitely, because I was doing school remotely and kind of like turning down the teacher in terms of volume and like playing my piano and stuff during parts that I personally didn't think were that important or whatever.
Oh, that's
So
funny. So you were doing, like, virtual school and you were just like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna be
yeah,
doing
it's like I'll just
writing
write
songs
songs
instead."
during this period instead. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And then with that, were you I mean, you said you were releasing pretty regularly at that point. Were you doing all the recording yourself at home?
I guess no, not really. I guess, yeah, two of the songs on my first EP I did record at home, but it was like remote with a producer.
Hmm.
And
How was
the
that?
other,
Like,
oh yeah,
working over the computer? Was that a weird experience or
yes, it was both kind of, I don't know, it was a little bit tricky, obviously. But it also kind of made me appreciate the technology we have now because he was able to listen to exactly what I was recording as opposed to just the voice over the computer. So it really
Mm.
made me appreciate the technology, but it definitely like was a challenge at certain points in terms of like delays and stuff.
Yeah, I remember in the beginning, there was, like, all those latency issues, and then once people started to figure out Zoom or whatever the, platform they were using, and then
Right.
things started to get better, and one video I remember early on was, like, the people were doing those live performances, like, those live streams,
Yes.
and, like, in the very, very beginning, I don't think there was a way to everyone could play li maybe there is now, but, like, if we were playing together and it was going live, like, it would not be in time at all,
Right.
and so everything was, like, pre-recorded and edited together, but it looked like it was, we're doing this together, and I remember this punk band called Pup they put out a video of like what it really sounds like when they like legitimately did like a live thing just so you could to be like, see, all these other ones are like fake. Like this is what it would sound like if everybody played at the same time. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you were just putting out music as it went along, and you put an EP out in 2022, Truth or Truth.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And did you recently graduate high school or did you just start college? I thought I saw that
Yeah,
you
I
started.
just graduated high school and I'm leaving for college in like tomorrow.
No
So
way.
yeah.
Wow. You're going to Harvard? Is that what I saw?
Yes, I'm doing a joint studies program between Harvard and Berklee College of Music. So I'm going to be studying biology at Harvard and then songwriting or production. I haven't decided yet at Berklee College of Music.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. Well, that makes
Yeah.
sense how you could do Broadway and school at the same time. Oh my gosh. Okay. Biology at Harvard. So like
It's a
wow.
little different.
Yeah. So like is you obviously really into science, must have really good grades. What do you what interests I mean, what are you gonna study there? Like what is the end goal? I mean, obviously you have a successful music career, but you just want to dip your toe in something else. Like I'm just curious
Yeah,
now.
yeah, definitely. This is the big question for everyone, including myself. It's what am I going to be when I grow up? I guess right now, interestingly enough, I'm taking the pre-med track, so
Oh my
I'm kind of
gosh.
planning to become a doctor. But I also really love songwriting, so I guess we're just gonna kind of see where both of the paths lead me, how far I get in both. So the whole
Wow.
future is unsure, but yes, right now the plan is to become a doctor and then kind of do songwriting on the side. But literally, who
Wow.
knows? Because I'm like, the more I do my songwriting career, the more and more I kind of want to just like only do music. So let's see. Let's
Yeah.
see what
But to get
happens.
into not only I mean Harvard, that's just like mind blowing, but also into Berkeley. I mean, that's like one of the hard. I mean, when you think of a music school, it's Berkeley, right? And like most people don't get in there, and then you get in there, and not a lot of people don't get into Harvard. So to get into both of those schools, like that's oh my gosh.
Oh,
So
thank
to get
you.
into Berkeley, did you like submit did you have to do like an audition for that or
Yeah, so I actually only found out about this joint studies program the day that the deadline was due. So the Berkeley application itself only took about like 20 to 30 minutes. It was super
Mhm.
short. The main part, like you said, is the audition. So I went into the city and I sang one of my songs, Happy for You, on the piano. I did some like ear training stuff and like
Mhm.
sight reading. Um, yeah, and then I just left, and then I found out that I got in.
So it's a program through Harvard also now? Like you can do classes at I mean at Berkeley from Harvard? Like how does that work? Or
Yeah,
do you not
so
even
I'm
know?
gonna be living on the yeah, it's a little complicated. I actually had a discussion with somebody at some point where I was saying Berkeley and I didn't say College of Music, and the whole time they were thinking I was talking about Berkeley in California.
Oh,
The
like
whole time they were
Cal?
like, "How would that work?" We were like, "No, no, no, sorry." But yeah, anyway, so I'd be living on the Harvard campus, and then it becomes kind of more, and then I have access to Berkeley resources. And my
Okay.
participation in Berkeley kind of becomes more intensive as the semesters progress. So like the first semester, I only go like once a week or something for a voice lesson and then an ensemble, which is just like a normal band, like a pop band or
Mhm.
something. But then I become more and more involved in it. So I'm taking Berkeley courses and then also Harvard courses. Um, but hopefully I'll be able to balance it all. So yeah.
Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh. So once you put out just to back up a little bit here, once you so in school were you known as like, oh, like Ava's the songwriter, the person that writes songs and the music person?
I think pretty much. Yeah, that was my
Okay.
reputation for sure.
And would you play like would you do like the school talent shows or would you play out around Long Island?
Yes, I've had a few performances on Long Island, and then I only did my like high school talent show 1 year.
Mhm.
which was actually my senior year because I figured why not? I'm a senior, got to get it
Oh, so you
done.
just did it this last year?
Yeah, yeah, I just did it, and I again performed "Happy for You." So yeah.
Wow, and then you would just play out at different spots in what, New York and Long Island?
Yes, and actually this summer I had my first music tour, which was super, super
Oh,
fun in New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and then I went a little bit in Massachusetts as well.
wow, that's awesome. What was that like? Was that pretty
My dog just entered the room. That's what
Oh,
that
all
noise.
good. Was that pretty fu I mean, touring that way must have been a lot different than with the Broadway shows.
Definitely, because I was just touring with my band and then, um, I guess, like, my manager and stuff as opposed to, like, a full-blown cast and orchestra, etcetera. Um, but it was definitely a really unique experience because I wasn't so used to performing for, like, larger crowds, and then also, it was kind of like a younger, more hip audience, as opposed to, just, like, audiences that usually can I don't know, it was just younger because I was able to access those more easily.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So with this new song that you're putting out, you're kind of changing lanes quite a bit, right? As far as, like, your songwriting goes?
Yes, it's definitely a pretty big departure sonically from my previous music, and I'm super excited for it. The next 4 songs actually that I'm gonna be releasing will come together to be an EP, and they're all kind of in that new dance realm, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, what was the decision to kind of steer towards this new, new sound?
I guess really just performing more. I realized that a lot of my songs were kind of on the slower side or more chill side, which is super cool. I love I love my old music, but I guess as I performed more live, I realized that I really like to dance and kind of move around when I'm performing my music, and other people love to do that too. And I just kind of got into that style. And I recently became obsessed with Dua Lipa, so that was like another
Ah, there you
huge
go.
inspiration. So yeah, actually, a few of my songs coming up are kind of inspired by some of Dua Lipa's styles. So
Very cool.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
forward to
would
it.
you say the subject matter and stuff has that evolved since you're getting older, you're experiencing different things. Now that you're going to be in college, like, do you feel like the subject matter has changed? Is that also part of the new you know sound for you?
Yes, yes, definitely. I think there are a few more songs about boys now than there were when I was
Okay.
like 12.
Well, yeah,
So,
but I mean, even when you were in high school, like
oh
even
yeah, yeah,
earlier than
yeah.
that, yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess it's same answer. Like more songs about kind of boys and relationships, and yeah, just kind of like I guess just like a more mature look overall on my
Hmm.
life because my music really just has to do with what's happening at my life at the moment. I don't really make things up. I may be more dramatic in my songs for interest, but yeah, I don't really make anything up. So all my songs kind of just come 100% from me.
Yeah, authentic. I like that.
Yeah.
So with the new one, Ego's the new song. Tell me
Yeah.
about that song. And when you decided to change kind of the sound or kind of this new sonic sonically it's a different sound than usual. Like, is that something that you like did you work with a different producer or is it you just went in or like, I like how did you kind of make that shift? And then what's the song about?
Right. So I made this shift working with a new producer. The next 4 songs are all produced by the same producer whose name is John Levine. He's worked a lot with Alessia Cara, and then he worked with
Wow.
Dua Lipa at some point. So that was
Oh, there
kind
you
of
go.
how I
That
found him.
sold you.
Yeah. So I worked with him in LA. So I went out to LA and I recorded with him. John Levine, he's literally the best. And Ego is about a guy who is kind of somewhat of a player and I guess more concerned about like boosting his own ego than actually and like flirting than actually having a serious relationship. And that was the inspiration for the song.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have some other ones that were all from like the same session, not session, but like the same. You said worked with the same producer, and these all this. group of songs would come out as an EP and they were all kind of written around the same time?
Yes, I guess they were recorded and written kind of in groups of two. So Ego, and then my next song, which I haven't announced yet, were recorded. It must, I guess, like sometime in the spring, and
Okay.
then the next two, I literally like just got back like a week and a half ago
Oh,
from
wow.
recording those two. Yeah.
Exciting. And I
Yes.
mean, then you
Very.
start school tomorrow. I mean, not start, but you move tomorrow. Are you
Yes.
packed up? Are you ready to go?
No. As soon as I get off this call, I need to like really grind and get all my stuff in suitcases. It's kind of all
Yeah.
like sprawled out and laid out on a table right now. So
Well, that's
yeah,
exciting. I mean, you
buckle
get to
up.
go to college. You get are you doing the dorm experience and all that stuff?
Definitely. I have three
Wow.
roommates.
Have you
And
met them yet?
I met them like just over like Instagram and FaceTime. And then I actually did meet one of them in person because she lived like 12 minutes from my hotel in LA.
Oh,
So
oh
I had dinner
wow.
with her. Yeah. Yeah.
Exciting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously doing songwriting thing and a doctor possibly. What do you know what kind of doctor you'd like to be? Do you have any doctors in your family or are you just interested in that? Or you're like, okay, I can make
Yeah,
some
my
scratch
mom
this
used
way.
to be a pediatrician. I
Oh,
guess
cool.
I'm pretty much following my mom's path at this point.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, which I never actually I don't know, it's funny because when I was younger, I was used to tell people, "Oh, no, I like oh, nobody in my family is like me. I, like, kind of did this all by myself." But I realized that really, like, all my interests come from my mom, so there's really no denying it. But, um, thankfully, it was never really pushed on me in that type of
Yeah.
way, and I guess that's why I thought that. It was pretty organic. Um, but yes, I have a lot of the same interests as my mom.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much, Ava. And I'll let you get to packing. I mean, got to
Yeah,
get a lot of stuff
exactly.
together to move your whole life to
Yeah.
Harvard. I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Sure. I guess really just go for it. I had a lot of music that I kind of held back on recording or like releasing for a while because I didn't think they were like perfect or so or at the level that I necessarily wanted them to be at. Um, and now that I listen back to those songs, I actually really love them and I kind of wish I released them at the time. Now I love the stuff I'm releasing now, but yeah, I guess that's my overall message. Just go for it and do what you love.
Bringing it back.